Tav Kuf Mem Tes Amud Beis will begin Kuf Mem Tes Amud Aleph, 5 lines from the bottom with the 2 dots. Maybe Sadamim Bonav, a person can make a girl with his children. So the Gemara's Medayik, Bonavim B'nei Vesoin, he can make a girl with his children. V'im Acher Loi, but he cannot make it with other people. He can make a girl with his family members, that who should get which portion, but to do it with other people who is not a family, and then he can't do it. My time, what's the reason? What's the answer? More answers, Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. The Amar of Yehuda Amar Shmuel, B'nei Chabur Makbin Zelzeh, if you have members of a group who are very particular and very stingy, they're makbid, nobody wants to give to the other one, that no one wants to forget that the other one should have a bigger chelik. Oivre mishum mida, they're oivre mishum mida, o mishum mishkol, o mishum minyan, o mishum loivim uparim b'yontiv. So they'll come to be oivre on all of these things which you're not allowed to do on Yontiv and Shabbos. What is that? Mishum mida. Since they're so particular, they're so makbid each other, so they will measure out exactly who gets what. They don't want anybody to get more than the other one. They're makbid. So Taisus explains, if we're talking about normally a regular group of people coming together and eating together, then they're not makbid. But if we're talking about a chabura that are makbid, they're so particular and stingy, then they'll come to measure out, and you're not allowed to measure on Shabbos Yontiv. Mushim mishkol, they'll weigh the portions, so they'll come to be over that. Mushim minyan, and counting, they'll say, well, I'm still entitled to, let's say, a certain amount more based on the value of what you got and what I got, so I'm still entitled to get 4 more pieces. Or I'm entitled to get, based on what the value of what you got, I'm entitled to get another 5 pieces. So they'll come mishum minyan, mishum loivim uporim, and borrowing and paying back. They're so makbid, as Taisus explained, they're so makbid that they won't use the lashon of she'ela, they use the lashon of halva, which we learned is also uparim, and there's an issur to pay back loans on Shabbos and Yontiv, as Hashem explained, because you might come to write down. So they said, there come people who are makbid, the bnei chabur, so makbid on these things, they'll come to be over all of these isurim. Okedivrei Hillel af mishum ribos. And according to what Hillel says, they'll also come to be over on ribbis. Why will they be over on ribbis? Because if they, even on a weekday, if they, let's say they're makbid on each other, so a person, Reuven borrows a certain amount of items of food from Shimon. Now, if he borrows it, if, like we learned earlier, there's by ribbis the concept of saw b'som. The Raisa, if a person borrows, let's say, a basket full of loaves of bread, and he returns a basket with loaves of bread, but if the price went up in the interim, now he's returning something which has greater value, midrabanan, that's ribbis, that's saw b'saw. Midraisa, that's not called a ribbis, but midrabanan, that's called a ribbis. Some learn that it's not by these type of items. It's not by household items. It's a measure of flour or something that's in merchandise, not household items. But generally, the concept is if you borrow something, an item, and you return the same measure of the item, a saw, for a saw, midaraisa, there's no ribbis. There's nothing stipulated that in the agreement that more has to be returned. But if the price goes up in the interim, then we're midrabanan, our geyser, because it looks like ribbis. Now, if there's a minor fluctuation in the price, the way many Rishonim learn, if there's a minor fluctuation in the price, then that's not asr mishum sov. So the Rabbanan were not geyser that minor type of fluctuation for people who are not makbid, because they're not makbid. It's insignificant, so it's not really, doesn't have the appearance of ribbis in any event. We're dealing over here with a Rabbanan dike Yisr, and if it's something which the price might go up and something where people don't really care about, they wouldn't geyser. But Hillel says, if we're talking about people who are makbid with each other, even during the week, if they exchange the items of food, well, then if the price goes up, and then he'll be returning an item which has a higher value, and the borrower is returning something which he is makbid, he's returning at the higher value, it bothers him, he's makbid on, he returns it because the agreement was to return he borrowed this commodity to return this commodity. But he really is makbid, so then there would be a ribistic problem. So therefore, that's why you cannot make this type of girl on Shabbos and Yom Tov, because it could lead to all these isurim. Well, what's the difference if it will lead to these isurim of weighing and measuring at Shabbos and Yom Tov? So what's the difference if it's his household or other people? If other people, it should be also for his family as well. So Gemara answer, why is the reason that it's mutter for his family? Like Rabbi Yehuda Marav said, Rabbi Yehuda Marav mutter lahal was one of bnei beisa beribis kedei latimim tam ribis. A person is allowed to lend his family members on interest so that they'll know how terrible interest is, how ribis is. Now what we're talking over here, as the Rishonim explain, we're talking where here the family are smuchim al shulchan avim. The father is supporting the children. They're dependent on the father supporting the children. So really all of this belongs to the father anyway. It doesn't really belong to the children. So there's no real hakpada in such a case. So the father, he lends, Rav Yehuda Marav says it's mutter to lend to the family members with interest, even though ribis is also. But here, it's not really ribis because it belongs to the father anyway. He just wants to teach them that how terrible a ribis is, that they'll feel how much ribis bites, and therefore they won't come to borrow ribis on their own in the future. So it's mutter over here when we have this case where the father is supporting them anyway. So therefore, as far as on Shabbos and Yom Tov, to make a girl with the food is also mutter because Saif Kol Saif, it's the father's, and there isn't that level of hakpada. They won't come to measure, they won't come to weigh it, etc. They won't come to write down. So it's mutter. The Gemara answers in hachinami. Yes, in hachinami, it is mutter for his family. In this case, where his children are dependents, it is mutter to make unequal portions to do it. And it's chasura machsura v'hachigatane. It's missing these words, and this is how you have to learn. A person can make a girl with his family members on the shulchan, even if they are unequal portions. My time, just like Rabbi Yehuda Marav said, that a person is allowed to lend his family members on interest, with interest, so they should know how biting interest is, how terrible ribis is. So too, he can make a unequal girl with unequal portions with his family, because that's a form of gambling, and he'll teach them how terrible it is gambling, that they take a chance to make a girl. Some might get a big portion, some might lose and get a smaller portion. Now gambling is awesome. It's a smach de loy kon. If a person, he makes a bet and he gambles on something, if he loses, at the time that he made the bet, the wager, he was thinking he was going to win. So at that time, he was not intending to give over B'lei Sholem the losings, or he was not intending to give over the amount that if he lost that he would have to pay. So it's considered a form of gzela because he's not makna it to the winner wholeheartedly. So it's also to gamble. Gamble is a smach leikanim. So just like Rabbi Yehuda Marav says, it's mutter to lend to his family members. Dahainu, in the case where they're dependent on him, they're smuchim al shulchan avim, it's mutter latim and ribis. It's also mutter managadol keneged manakatana for that same reason. Now, the Lamaisa, the Gemara B'Metzia rejects this Rabbi Yehuda Marav, that he should not do this with his family members. But Lamaisa, this is how we're explaining it in terms of this reasoning. If we do hold of this reasoning, then if we do hold of this reasoning, it's mutter for his family members, even mana gadol keneged mana katana. But that's only in banavim b'nei beisayin. Imacherem loy, but he cannot do it with others. My time, Rav Yehuda Shmuel. that he can't like Rav Yehuda or Shmuel, because with people who are macherim, who are makbid zeh, then they come down to writing and measuring and weighing, etc. And therefore that is awesome. Now, mana gedola keneged mangatana afbechol acherim also, and unequal portions, to make a girl with unequal portions, even on a weekday, is also mishum kuvia, because of gambling. So there for others, it's also for them even gambling. Even mana gedola mangatana, rather, because it is a form of gambling. The Mishnah continues, says, Matil chaloshim, you can make a girl for the portions on Yontif. For the Yontif Dika portions for the Korbanos, when they allocated the different parts of the Korbanos to the Kohanim, they made a girl. Maya v'loy alamonos, what does it mean, not for the portions? And it says that you can make a girl for the different portions of the Korban. What does it mean, v'loy alamonos? Amar Yaakov Rei Bas Yaakov, v'loy alamonos shel chol b'Yontif. You can't do it on the monas of Chol b'Yontif, the yesterday's korbanos, which you should have made the girl yesterday, the day before. You can't make the girl on Yontif. Really, strictly speaking, you should not make a girl on Yontif. That's what we learned before, because you might come to weigh and measure, etc. But for the purpose of the korban, for the avodah, then they were matrid, the korban is doicha Yontif, so the girl is a doicha. It facilitates the korban, the eating of it's a mitzvah to eat the basar of the korban. So they were matrid, but they were only matrid on the korban that's brought on Yontif. But if it's a korban that was brought the day before, you should have made the girl the day before. You can't make it on Yontif. Pshita, of course, it's kvashet. Why should you be allowed to make on Yontif a girl for yesterday's korban? When the answer is Mal, the same you might think, because the pasuk says that your nation are like Kohanim who quarrel. So I might think that in order that there shouldn't be a machlokes, afilamonas the whole nami. You might think that even for yesterday's korban, the inyan is so choshev that the Kohanim should not come lidei machlokes and quarrel, that you might have thought that you can make a girl. Kamash malan, that you can't. And it's also another memra of Rabbi Yaakov Brei Bas Yaakov. Anyone who someone is punished as a result of what he did, as we'll see in the Gemara weiter, it means not because someone's punished because somebody did something bad to a person and Rebbeinu Shalom punished them. Meaning, if somebody does something to bring about the punishment of somebody else, he does a maisa, or he daven, he spalel. If he does something to bring about the punishment of somebody else, even if that person was a rasha, as we'll see, he's not brought into the inner circle of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Min nolan, where do we know this from? Ileima mishum d'chsiv. Vayomer Hashem miyafates achav vayal vayapel baramas gilad vayomer zeh b'choy v'zeh omar b'choy. The mice over there is that the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted to entice Achav to go to war against Aram, and he would over there get killed. So he said, who will entice the Achav to go to this war? Who will convince his Nevi Sheker to give him a prophecy to say that he'll be Matzliach, and then he'll go fight the battle and he'll get killed in that battle? So the question is, who was going to be mefatim? Who will entice him? Vayomer zeh b'koi v'zoyim b'koi. One said one way, another said the other. Vayetza ruach v'yamer lifnei Hashem v'yomer ani avatenu. And then the ruach came up, and the ruach said, a certain spirit, we'll see who it is shortly, and he says, I'm going to entice him. Vayomer etze vayitze ruach sheker b'fi kol neviyav vayomer tefata v'gam tuchal tzeva sechen. So he said, I will go. This Ruach said, I'll go. I'll be a Ruach Sheker in the mouth of all the Nevi'im for Achav's Nevi'im. And therefore they'll tell him, give him prophecy that he'll be Matzliach, and he'll go to fight. So Vayomer Hashem said, you'll be Matzliach, and go ahead and do it. V'amrin my Ruach. What is this Ruach? Amar Yochanan Zerucha Shel Novis. This is the Ruach of Novis. The Maisa is that Achav wanted a certain vineyard that belonged to Navas. Navas did not want to sell it to him, refused to sell it to him. So Izebel gave Achav this Eitzah that to trump up charges against Navas that he's a Mekal, Mecharav Megadev, and he cursed the king, and then have him executed, and then they would be able to take over this vineyard. So that Ruach of Navas said, I will entice them, and therefore bring about the death of Achav. We might say, so it says, in the Rishon said, Gam Tuchot, say, go out, say Vasek. It might say, Amarav, say Mechitzasi, go out, but leave my inner circles. Leave my inner circles. Can't stay in my inner circles. So you see that if someone causes a punishment, the downfall, and brings about punishment for somebody else, he's not allowed into the mechitza, the inner circle of their Rebbeinu Shalom. Maybe that wasn't because of that reason, because he brought the downfall of Achav. Maybe it's because he was lying, right? He had to bring that, to give that ruach sheker in the Nevi'im, to say that Achav would be matzliach, which he won't, and lie he can't have in the mechitza of Rebbeinu Shalom emes, he can't have sheker. Rather, we'll bring a riot from the following. It says the Gabi Nebuchadnezzar Savata Kolam Mikavoid. If you've been satisfied, been saveya with humiliation, not covered, but with busha, say Gamata v'ha'arel. You drink this busha, you and the Ariel, the one who was not gemalt. So what do we mean? Who's it referring to? Savata Kolam Mikavoid in Nebuchadnezzar. Shtei Gamata v'ha'arel Zetzikiyah. You will have busha, you and the oral is referring to Tzidkiyahu. So it refers to Tzidkiyahu as an oral. Why is it referred to him as an oral? So as we'll see, the mice over there was in Nebuchadnezzar Arosha. He used to be boil all the kings. He used to every day be boil a different king from the kings from the countries that he captured, and one of them was Tzidkiyahu. So he was assuming at this point that Tzidkiyahu was a conspirator. He was mishtatif with this Avera in order to get Nebuchadnezzar killed. So that's why it refers to him as Ahura. And as you see, that since Tzidkiyahu brought about the punishment for Nebuchadnezzar, he's rejected. He's called an oral. No, that's not the pshat. Chada, the kulakrab Nebuchadnezzar. See, the whole pasuk is referring to Nebuchadnezzar. There's no reference to Tzidkiyahu. But Tzidkiyahu tzadikim may have a lemevedle. And secondly, Tzidkiyahu was innocent. He was innocent. He was a victim. Nebuchadnezzar was boiled him. He was a victim. We'll see in the Gemara very shortly what the Maisa was, but it was against his will. He was forced. So that can have a right from here. It says in the pasuk, for a tzaddik to punish is not good. So it's loitayv. What is loitayv? Ein loitayv el ra. Not good means bad. Is evil. It says that you detest raw, and raw will not dwell in your mechitza. And in where you live, there will not be raw. So therefore, a tzaddik to punish is loitayv. Loitayv is raw, and raw is not in the mechitza of the Rebbeinu Shalom. My mashma dai chalosh and lishna depuru. How do you know that chalosh? The Mishnah says matil chalosh. How do you know that's a reference to a goyrol? Tichsiv ech nafalta mishamayim hil ben shach. How did you fall from the heavens? You fell you were so great and you fell down so low. The shining one, the sun of the early morning. Nigarat al haaretz cholesh al goyim. You've been cut down to the ground, the one who made goyrolois, who made the goyrol on the different goyim. What is that referring to? That Nebuchadnezzar made goyrolas on the kings of the royalty from the different countries. To know which one he would be boil on with Mishkav Zohar on that day. So you see that the lotion of chaloshes, that is a girl. It's choyle shel goyim. He made gerolos on the goyim. Uchsiv kol malchei goyim kulam. And it said that all of the kings, everyone is in covet in their own house. So what does that mean? That kol goyim, that kol malchei goyim kulam, that they are all now in the covet of their own home. Amar Yochanan shenochu b'mishkal zocher means that when Nebuchadnezzar died, then this terrible, disgusting avera that he did, they had respite from it. They rested from that. The entire life there was no laughter in the world. The whole world was in tsar and sorrow. After he died, then everyone was calm, and they burst forth in simcha, in shira, in song. Which implies that as long as he was alive, there was no song. It's also to stand in the house of Nebuchadnezzar. The Seirim, the demons will dance over there. The Seirim, the Shadim, will dance in his house. So if people come in, the Shadim leave. So therefore, the Gzeir was that there should be Shadim in his house. People are not allowed to come in. That day that Nebuchadnezzar wanted to be boiled Mishkav Zochar Tzidkiyahu, Nimshchar Losa Shleish Me'es Ama, his aver extended 300 amas. And it circled the entire gathering. So it says that you've been sated with shame, with busha. And you drink, and and your orla will be exposed. Orel begematri shleish me'es havel. That's the gematria of Orel is 300. When Nebuchadnezzar went down to Gehenna, they trembled, all the people in Gehenna trembled. Maybe he wants to rule over them, and Gehenna he wants to rule over them. Or does he want to become weak like them? Shenemar gam ata chulesa kamayno elena nimshalta. So it says, the Pasuk says, so therefore it says in the Pasuk, you become weak, and ata cholesa kamoina elena nimshalta, you're compared to us. You're just like us. You're no better than us. Yasabas kol v'amra mimi namta rodeva ashkavi eshar elim. It says, you're not beautiful than anybody else. Go and lie down to rest with the other arelim. The noiges, the oppressor, he stopped from his oppression, and the madheva, the golden one, has stopped. This nation, Moval, was now shavsa. It ceased. It stopped. It ceased having its power, its glory, its koyach. Shavsa umazu shamra, which said that medoid v'avei, that said measure out the money. They used to take plunder from the other nations, measure it out. Don't count the coins. Take in weight the money and bring it over here. Vika Damre, as Marsha explains, and the pshat is a different pshat. It says Shamra ma'id have below mida. According to this pshat, is that it was even so much gold that they plundered that there was no measure for it. The first pshat is that they didn't count the coins. There was too much to count. They brought it in measures, in weights. The second pshat is it was beyond measure. It was so much. Urvu yasero husaftali, and it says Urvu yatira husaftali. You have given me after Nebuchadnezzar. He was at one point exiled to live as an animal for 7 years, and then he came back and was restored to his malchus. So he said that now you've given me extra kavod, an extra measure of kavod. He used to ride on a male lion, and he tied a serpent to his head. That you've given to be my servants, you've given me all the wild beasts of the of the in the fields, the wild beasts that roam, you've given me to that they should serve me and I should rule over them.